Welcome in to Mercedes-Benz Stadium live after the Saints fall to the Atlanta Falcons 24-15 and are now 5-6 on the season after the bye week. I'm Brooke Kirchhoffer. He's Nick Underhill, breaking down another frustrating loss, and we are now week 12 into the season, and we are still talking about the Saints finding new ways to lose. And now it continues to be inconsistent. That's been the only consistent thing about this Saints offense, is that it has been so inconsistent. But the frustrations today, yes, there were a lot of injuries. We are going to get to all of that in today's show, but pretty bad.
Yeah, definitely pretty bad. And look, there's new ways to lose, but they're like all first cousins. Like, none of these are like distant cousins. They're all within the same realm, the same family tree. They know each other at the picnic. They look alike. Like, They aren't finding new and innovative ways. It's like the same issues throughout the whole entire season. So that kind of points towards coaching a little bit, and we're going to get into that issue as we break down this game. We're coming to you from the Mobile Toro Hospital studio. We're presented by PJ's Coffee, and if you need to get a new car, check out my guy Matt Bowers. Dealerships all over the area, pretty much any state you can drive to. You can go there and buy a car off of Matt. They got the best customer care, the best prices, and they will get you in and out with the most pain-free experience. All right, let's hit these odds. The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Are you looking for the perfect engagement ring? Look no further than Friend & Company Fine Jewelers' new engagement salon. This new area houses a wide selection of engagement rings to choose from in all cuts, sizes, and colors. Their experienced staff offer 5-star customer care to help you find the perfect ring to express your love. Visit their new engagement salon today. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the perfect ring for the perfect moment, and also for the perfect person. 7713 Maple Street between Adams and Burdett Street. 504-866-5433. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Check them out at friendandcompany.com. Moe's Barbecue is located in Metairie. They have your game day needs taken care of. Whether you're tailgating or watching the Black and Gold or LSU at home with friends, Moe's has you covered. Order pulled pork, wings, ribs, sides, and more. Come in with the family for lunch and dinner, as our kids' meals will please even the pickiest of eaters. Tailgating, parties at home, lunch and dinner, Moe's Barbecue will handle it all. Moe's Original Barbecue, 1101 North Causeway Boulevard between 48th and 49th Street in Metairie. Call 504-407-5333 for your catering order today. 504-407-5333. Moe's Original Barbecue in Metairie. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show.
Let's get into our lead topic, presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the official jewelers of the New Orleans Saints. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers is home to a new engagement salon where they have a wide selection of beautiful engagement rings. And with it being the holiday season, go check out their Fleur-de-Lis collection that is specially priced for our NOF audience. It's this set of earrings and necklace that I have on now. Of course, again, they are specially priced for you, the NOF fans. All right, let's get into our lead topic. The Saints hand over first place in the NFC South by falling to the Falcons. The Falcons are now in first. Saints dropped to second. And the Saints had an opportunity to beat a below-average team. The Saints also being below average. But when you kick 6 field goals, you make 5 of them. You go 0 for 5 in the red zone as far as touchdown goes. It's going to be hard to win a game.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the way they played this one, it's just difficult. And the thing that bothered me the most about it is Dennis Allen in the postgame, he kind of just pointed to penalties, and he felt like they drove the ball and like, oh, if we drive the ball that well, we move the ball, we should score touchdowns. But you aren't scoring touchdowns. You haven't been scoring touchdowns the whole season. Then just kind of the lack of urgency within that was striking to me. They lost a huge opportunity here. They fell down the standings. They let the Falcons jump over them. I feel like it was a borderline disaster situation, and it just didn't necessarily feel like that in the post-game interview. And, you know, that was my biggest takeaway from the day, was just like, man, just like okay, there's a couple penalties, but like you didn't score any touchdowns. Okay, you moved the ball, but it's just a bunch of empty calories. Like, where is it? It was almost like passive defiance in a way, and it was just kind of like, what's going on here? Like, you just want to see someone kind of feel it a little bit, and it kind of felt like, I don't know, there was like a tone of like everybody was dumb for asking questions, and I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand the whole tone of that thing.
Yeah, the one question that was asked that surprised me was Dennis Allen was asked specifically if they felt like they regressed after the bye week, and he said, no, not really. How can you answer it so confidently saying that when you just lost to a rival where you really didn't put up much of a fight? Yes, you had a ton of injuries, and we will get to those a little bit later. You did have your top 3 wide receivers out. It's going to be hard to win any game with those guys out, but you had enough talent on the field to get the job done. Your quarterback was healthy in this game. Penalties and turnovers did bite them. Like, it's okay to recognize that as a reason why they struggled in the red zone. There were 2 penalties specifically that made 2 of those 5 red zone trips, the long down and distances. Of course, the pick 6, that's on Derek Carr, though. I know a lot of people are talking about his post-game press conference where he gave a lot of credit to Jesse Bates for reading it, being the single high safety who went out of his assignment. But a single high safety only leaves their assignment if they know it's a clear shot at an interception. And then, of course, it turns into a pick 6. The Saints get behind. Blake Grupe kept them alive in this one, but to me, it's not enough to say that penalties and turnovers were an issue. Yes, Taysom Hill has been your guy that you can go to in the red zone. He did have the fumble that he lost, but that doesn't mean that you go away from Taysom Hill, especially with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed out of the game. Alvin can't do it all. I don't know what happened with Jawan Johnson in the game. It looked like he got a little bit shaken up, but he stayed in the game. I think the fan base is tired of the excuses. We as reporters continue to ask, and it's not necessarily an accountability answer that we get. It's more so met with, perfect example, them continuing to say penalties and turnovers. And I put this into the script because I thought it was really interesting what you had to say. People are going to look at Derek Carr's numbers on the stat sheet and go, wow, he didn't have that bad of a game. You called it window dressing. Why?
Well, I mean, he had 304 yards, but there's no points. Like, great, you had 304 yards. The 304 yards got you nothing. Like, it got you in field goal distance. So when you look at, like, a barometer of how a guy plays, it's often like, oh, he threw for 300 yards. When you look up at a box score, you're like, oh, someone threw for 300 yards, and you assume they had a good game. Like, that's just kind of like, it feels like a full stat sheet. But there's a big 0 there in the touchdown thing. So, like, who cares that he threw for 300 yards? Who cares, like, he has good numbers, like, stats-wise, like, yardage-wise. But he's not scoring touchdowns, so who cares? Like, it does nothing for you. It's garbage yards. Like, it really is. Like, he isn't winning games with 300 yards. So he could have thrown for 5 yards. It wouldn't have mattered. Like, they didn't get a touchdown in this game. So who cares? Like, I'm just kind of tired of, like, seeing these numbers. And it's like, you look up so many times and you're like, wow, they did this. And it's just like, yeah, but it didn't get him anywhere. It didn't get him to do anything. And, like, the thing about Jesse Bates, read Jesse Bates, you know? Like, there's both guys can read. You can look at him, too. You're allowed to look at him and see what he's doing. Maybe when you're locked in on the slant from the time the ball snapped, the safety's going to jump it. You know, like maybe you look off and you're like, oh, and then you go to the slant. Maybe you won't jump the slant. You know, there's things you can do. You know, I don't know. It just feels like a lot of, like, just say I threw a bad pass. Even if it is this thing, like, at this point, we just want to hear you say, like, I messed up. Like, just take it. And if it's somebody else's fault, if it's anybody else, like, fix it behind the scenes. But publicly, it's the coach takes blame, then the quarterback takes blame, and that's why you make more money than everybody else. You're supposed to be a leader. You're supposed to take the blame for everything, and it's supposed to be on you. So just say, my bad, I screwed up. This is how I screwed up, and then go back. Like, don't say it's Chris Olave's fault for running the wrong route. Don't blame A.T. Perry. Just say we screwed up, and then behind closed doors you fix it. I mean, that's just kind of how you got to go about it. And I think this stuff, like, you know, look, I think even like DA's passiveness a little bit to a point is something that, like, players are getting annoyed. Like, just I don't know, like, just own it, push them, all that stuff. But, like, everything just feels a little bit too passive right now.
Have a little bit of accountability. And look, if the NFL and games were measured by teams moving the ball well, we'd be in an entirely different league. But it's about how you finish. You can put together these great drives and move the ball well, but unless you finish in the end zone with a touchdown, it means nothing. And that's what those yards are. the offense is now mirroring what the defense has struggled with. The defense is getting pressure to the quarterback, but they're not able to finish with sacks. Same thing on offense. Yes, you can move the ball well, but if you cannot get into the red zone and you just start seeing stars and you get out of sync and you get nervous, because at this point, you have to say something about the red zone being so inconsistent. Obviously, something is going on either mentally with the play caller and the quarterback, both. It could be one or the other, but this is not just on Derek Carr anymore. This is on Pete Carmichael. He has his hands absolutely dirty when it comes to going 0 for 5 in the red zone. Yes, penalties happen. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. We're not going to let that be the excuse, but not finishing off drives on offense and the Saints not finishing off pressures as far as sacks go. You saw it again today. Desmond Ridder was able to run all over the place. We're going to get to those stats a little bit later in the show as well. But, man, the defense could not have looked worse against the run. 228 rushing yards. They made Bijan Robinson look like a pro. And I don't want to get into Desmond Ridder too much right now because we're going to get into that later on in the show. But Bijan Robinson, the one that sticks out to me is whatever the play call was for defense was put Demario Davis in such an unfavorable matchup that Bijan Robinson kind of looked at him and was like, all right, old man, let's go. And Bijan Robinson beat him in the corner, and you saw the frustration with Demario Davis. We didn't get a chance to talk to Demario after the game. We actually didn't get a chance to talk to any defensive players in the locker room. We spent a lot of time at Alvin Kamara's locker that we kind of missed some of the D linemen, which, to be honest with you, they were the first ones out of the room, and I don't blame them, going to see their families and then wanting to get on the bus and immediately look at the film as soon as they get on the plane because it was so bad. Again, you are just allowing teams to run all over you. Anytime you see over 200 yards, and they put up over 200 rushing yards too early in the game. You and I had a conversation throughout the game, and we were like, I cannot believe the Atlanta Falcons already have 200 rushing yards. Why does it continue to be so coached so poorly, the Saints run defense?
Couple of things here. A, they needed to score points to make it so that Atlanta couldn't run. They didn't score points. And, you moved the ball well. Here's the thing. When you go to the Olympics and they have the 4x4 relay, they don't give the gold medal to the team winning after 3 laps. You got to win that 4th lap. So you don't have a great drive if you get to the 20 and you can't get the last 20 yards. You got to score touchdowns. So those aren't good drives. They're bad drives. And by having bad drives, they allowed Atlanta to have good drives because now they can run the ball the whole game, and you can't do a damn thing about it because you can't score points. That's how you stop teams from running. So that was the biggest issue. But, yeah, they didn't tackle. They didn't have a good plan against it. Desmond Ridder got out of the pocket again. Bijan Robinson cooked them. Everybody, it was just the whole entire day. They got punked a little bit in the run game, and that's the thing now. They don't have a good run defense. What they wanted to do is they wanted to go out and get different guys so that they could play the run better. That was one of the reasons for getting rid of Onyemata and bringing in Nathan Shepard and Colin Saunders, and I don't think it's had the effect that they've wanted it to have. We hadn't seen a lot of teams early in the season kind of come after them, but any team with an actual good running game has made them look really, really bad. This was a low point today. 200 and some yards is crazy. 228. I mean, it's crazy. They got cooked, and they should feel embarrassed about it for real.
I was a little surprised by this too. I wasn't sure how much of an impact JPP would have in this game. He was playing right away. He was heavily involved
16 snaps,
in this game, but I think it just goes back to how badly the run defense is being coached right now. The defensive line should be a huge question for the Saints heading into Detroit. This is something we are absolutely going to be asking about. We're going to talk about it again and again and again until the Saints can somehow figure it out and get this stuff corrected, because it's been a big problem, which gets to our moment of the game presented by New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Desmond Ridder in the first half, he scrambled on a 3rd and 4, picked up the first down. To me, that was the moment you kind of felt it in the press box that this is what today is going to look like. Desmond Ridder is going to be able to scramble out of the pocket, extend plays with his feet. The Saints are going to have a hard time. They made Desmond Ridder look like he runs a 4.4. Maybe he does. I could be wrong on that. But they made Desmond Ridder look like he was just so quick moving around the pocket and also getting out of the pocket. How many times did we have to see it get to Pete Werner chasing him out of bounds? Because Desmond Ridder is kind of a threat when he gets on the outside of the field. He's not a quarterback that's just going to step out of bounds. He's somebody who could turn up the field and add extra yards. And it's time for the Saints to take a really close look at this and decide, does a change need to happen as far as maybe even an assistant coaching change? I don't know what it is, but something's got to give with this.
Well, I said it during our pregame show, too. I think they got to do something where they look at their prototypes at defensive end, because the league is getting more athletic, and having these, like, big hulking guys that aren't fast, like, it doesn't work anymore. And I think that's the single greatest thing you need to be able to chase down these guys. You need fast players to chase down fast quarterbacks. It's just kind of a common sense thing. And if you have big hulking guys that have no speed, you're just going to get beat by these players. And there's more and more coming. I mean, this is what the league is now. It's not like, you know, an outlier where every now and then it's like, oh my God, what do you do about Cam Newton? Like, everybody runs like that now. So you got to find a way to stop it. So it's the way it's being coached. It's the players you're bringing in. The whole entire thing of what the quarterback's running on them, it hasn't been solved in, 6 years now. It feels like it's been an issue. I mean, something you're doing is wrong. And they just keep trying to do the same thing, and the result remains the same. And they try to, mix it up a little bit. But I think the whole entire, philosophy of how you defend quarterbacks, that has to be something that changes if you don't change your coaching staff this offseason. Because, look, they might very well have a whole completely different state of mind on the type of players they want, what they're doing, because it might be a different head coach. So depending on how the season plays out, we'll see. But if it is still DA, they got to come back and they got to change that up.
Look at the rest of the NFL as well. Look, you are in this for the long haul now against quarterbacks that are able to move out of the pocket. This isn't like, we're going to have to deal with this 2-3 times a year. You're probably going to have to deal with it almost every week.
Yep.
And the weeks that you're not, that's when the Saints have shown some success in areas. We've also seen them make non-mobile quarterbacks mobile in games, which to me, when you look at the rest of the schedule, they should be able to contain the rest of the quarterbacks that are on the schedule, the slew of games, these next 6 games that are coming up. Detroit's going to be a tough task, but they should beat the Panthers. They should beat the Giants. They have an opportunity to beat the Rams on the road. You're going to get the Falcons again. You're going to get the Bucs on the road, which Baker Mayfield went down today. They were playing with their backup quarterback, Kyle Trask. So, again, it's wide open for the Saints to take back the NFC South. That's why we led off with that topic, because it was right there for the Saints to hold. And against a rival, when the rival brought in a concert, kind of threw it in your face, and they played New Orleans music at the end of the game on the night when they were celebrating Atlanta hip-hop. You're not supposed to be playing New Orleans rap in here when you got Atlanta rap in here. And the Saints didn't have an answer. You did see the chippiness and the fight that happened during the game, but there wasn't enough fight on the field. You saw it from a few players, and we are going to get to those players of the game and some of the things that we saw that we did like a little bit later.
Yeah, no, it's disrespect. I mean, you're bringing Ludacris down from the roof.
I know.
They weren't scared
at all.
And
during an NFL game, this isn't like a concert. We did see the lineup, but we're thinking, is there a concert before this game? Like, you have to look at that as a Saints player and think, absolutely not. I'm ruining their day.
Yeah.
I'm not letting them have a good day in Atlanta for this concert. Atlanta kind of punked themselves with the mic not working at the beginning of the game. The Saints had an opportunity to continue to maybe embarrass, but it just didn't happen. The Saints got embarrassed.
Yeah, I mean, their mic didn't work, but the Saints' red zone offense didn't work. So, yeah, I mean, I think Atlanta came out better on that equation. Tough day for them for sure, though. But yeah, look,
tough day.
This is who the quarterbacks are now, and if you can't do this, what are you doing? It's just part of it's football now. It's not like a wrinkle. This is football, and if you can't stop quarterbacks from just running all over you, you got huge problems. And it's just going to – Jaden Daniels is coming. Everybody, all the quarterbacks are coming, and they're all going to be like this.
It's changing in the NFL, and if you don't change with it, you're going to get left behind. And these old-minded coaches could get left behind. Pete Carmichael is still running the same offense for the last, 15 years now? Dennis Allen is still running the same run defense. That is still not working. Something's got to give. Something's got to change. But we are going to hit a quick break, and then we will come back to continue breaking down the Saints' loss at the Falcons right after this.
'Tis the season for gumbo combos at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Enjoy our hot gumbo, fries, and your choice of shrimp, catfish, soft-shell crab, or frog legs starting at $9.99. That's right, $9.99 at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company.
No loan payments for 90 days with local financing from Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union on your next auto, boat, RV, ATV, or motorcycle. That's right, no loan payments for 90 days when you close your loan by December 31st. Jefferson Financial offers easy-to-use easy-to-use online applications, fast decisions, and local personalized service. The financial products you want with the convenience you deserve. We are Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA.
At Turo, we were born for moments like this. From bringing new bundles of joy into the world to delivering what new mothers need to stay healthy. Born to keep hearts beating strong and to keep seniors active and healthy for years to come. Because at Turo, we deliver more than babies. From heart care to cancer care and newborns to seniors, at Turo, we're born to care.
Hey, Brad, I got you something I think you're really going to like for your gift this year.
What? Is this one of those Martin's exclusive bourbon bottles?
Picked it out just for you.
Maya, this is awesome. But I think you're going to love the gift I got you a little bit more.
Wow. Mega Wine generic brand vodka. Brad, you shouldn't have.
Don't mention it.
No, Brad, you shouldn't have.
Look, small batch, smooth, soft spice.
I'll take a New Orleans Saints scratch up. Play New Orleans Saints from the lottery. Just scratch, fold, and punch your way to winnings. Punch your ticket with New Orleans Saints. Win up to $100,000. Enter our second chance drawings, giving you a season to smile.
Welcome back to the Mobile Toro Hospital studio, where we are live in Atlanta, joining you from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I'm Brooke Kirchhoffer. He's Nick Underhill. Let's get to our money segment presented by Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. Alvin Kamara was money today and was one of maybe 2 or 3 players that fought throughout the entirety of this game. It didn't matter what the score was. This guy was putting on for his team. 69 rushing yards, 4.6 rushing yards per attempt. 4 receptions for 50 receiving yards. This guy just stayed in it. And look, we talk about maybe somebody else on offense who showed up. It could have been the Lynn Bowden game. You can't really call it a Lynn Bowden game when you lose, but Lynn Bowden look.
He did.
2 carries, 40 rushing yards. He was targeted twice, didn't have any catches, but he was in here trying to make plays happen. Alvin Kamara, a lot of people maybe misread him and his interviews, and he comes off a type of way, but when he's on this field and when he's suited up, it's a guy that's not giving up on himself. To me, it seems like, I don't want to say he's giving up on the team. He's not a guy that gives up on a team. He's just not a guy that's going to give up on himself. The work that he's put in the NFL, we talk to him every week, and he's like, I'm taking that extra step. Like, I'm sacrificing this, and this to be ready each week. I want everybody else to do the same so we can all get back on the same page and make things work. Find something different. He was that today for the Saints.
He's got too much pride to quit on anyone. You know, and it's for himself, and I think it's for his teammates too. I don't think we're going to see this locker room fall apart like that, because I think that they care about each other and they don't hate each other. But I don't think, I think it previously sometimes it's interpreted as like the coach keeping things together. I don't think that's the case. I think they're going to keep things together for each other, and they're going to keep playing hard. And, Alvin averaged, 4.6 per carry today?
Yep.
So, that was last week's number. I don't know what it was over.
No, it was today.
It was
4.6.
Okay, well,
yeah.
He's ran hard. He looked good. He had 119 yards from scrimmage. I mean, he was going. He was trying to fight and get him there. Tyron was trying to fight and get him there.
Absolutely.
Like, the leaders on both sides were doing their thing today. And I think that they're going to keep playing hard and they're going to keep trying to do their thing. But I think it's for the teammates. I think it's for each other, and I think it's for themselves. And we saw that from Alvin today.
We heard it from Alvin today, too, in the locker room. That was one of the things I asked him, is this locker room still intact? And he wanted to make sure he knew what I was asking. He was like, from a player's perspective specifically, I'm not quitting on my guys, like the guys in the trenches that are out there fighting each week, the offensive line, minus that Landon Young when he came in and Derek Carr just got pummeled. The offensive line has at least improved from the horrid play that we saw in the first 4 weeks of the season. And Alvin mentioned those guys, like, this team is not going to give up on itself as far as the guys who are working hard. What I should have asked him when he asked me again who I was talking about is, has this team quit on the coaches or quit on the quarterback? They're they're probably not going to answer on camera with us. This might be something for like an off-camera topic, but you're absolutely right. This was a group that they win, they lose together. They're together after every game in the locker room. You don't see guys kind of just talking bad about each other or things like that. Alvin's right in saying that this team is still together, but it felt like a read between the lines interview, because even when he said things have to get different, we got to find a way to be different. And I asked him again, how do you be different at this point in the season? And he gave us a little bit of a long pause, and the first thing he said was, well, when I'm a coach, I'll let you know. And to me, that screams that this coaching staff better figure it out. You can't just throw in the towel because it's this late into the season and you're afraid to change things. No, the time is now. Like, your job is on the line. What are you going to prove now for these next 6 games? Because if you do win them all, you have a really good opportunity to be a playoff team.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they win the next 6, they are a playoff team. Like, they'll run away with the division. They win the next 6. I mean, that's 11 win, but they aren't gonna. They aren't gonna win. They probably aren't gonna win next week. They'll probably lose a couple games that they should win. Look, even just not even reading between the lines of what Alvin said, like, I think it's just there's just a lot of stuff that is recurring throughout the whole entire season. And, you know, I thought the most damning thing he said was they're a team that doesn't have an identity. And you're in week 12.
He was very clear on that.
You're in week 12. There's no consistency.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad. It's what I was saying on the open. Like, they're losing in different ways, but it all feels kind of the same. And the one thing I hate hearing more than anything else, and it's always like it's an execution. The players got to execute. The players got to execute.
Yeah.
You got to execute to get them to execute. It drives me insane hearing that. And that's something that we keep hearing everywhere, every single week. And, I thought Alvin's interview was very interesting. You know, I think he says things with purpose, and he's consistently said the same things. And it's kind of like, okay, nothing's changing. So how does it change? And, you know, he said they need to stop talking about it and kind of being about it and making things happen. And, you know, I think it's high time for that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the story I wrote today was I think they got 6 weeks to save their jobs. And I think that the seats are hot, and I think they're about to get very hot. If you lose against Detroit, I think the temperature goes up. You drop a game to the Giants, you know, it's an inferno. You miss the playoffs. I think everybody needs to be out of here. I think that's where they're at. And it's a race against time, and, you know, based on what we've seen, I feel like time's got the advantage here, and I don't think they're going to figure it out in time.
The best thing Alvin Kamara said, in my opinion, was they are consistently inconsistent. There's no better way to describe what the season has been for the Saints in 2023. Now 5-6, and you just hand over first place in the NFC South to your rival, the Falcons. But another guy who was putting on today, didn't matter what the score was, didn't matter what position the Saints were in, he was going to continue to show up. This is a guy who has maybe been scrutinized a little bit for his age and being a veteran. Tyrann Mathieu continues to show up for this team. He is our player of the game, presented by Hard Hide Strawberry Whiskey. He had 2 interceptions, and let me tell you, that first interception felt like, wow, the Saints could ride the wave of this. It could change in their favor. It almost kind of felt like the pick 6 for the Falcons. It felt that way for the Saints in the room. And let me just shout out Who Dat Nation. I know you guys are frustrated and all of that. They showed up today. I could hear them loud and clear outside of the press box when Tyrann Mathieu had those 2 pick 6s. The players have been calling on you guys to continue to lift them up. Yes, it's frustrating, but when the fans show up, I feel like the players do feed off of that a little bit. Tyrann Mathieu is somebody that's from New Orleans. He came back here for a reason with a purpose. It wasn't just because he wanted to continue his NFL career. He wanted to come play for the black and gold and wear that jersey, and it means something. And he has shown with his play that it means something. This defense could really ride off of Tyrann Mathieu. And even if you have another Paulson Adebo big game, let your defensive line maybe feed off of that a little bit and say, hey, like, let's give these guys a break in the secondary because we can't handle our jobs up front.
I think he's had a good season. You know, the narrative about him not having a good season, I've never bought into it.
We don't buy that on NOF.
I don't subscribe to that.
No.
Like, you know, setting that out of there. Yeah, that's no. I think he's had a good season. He makes plays. He's a playmaker. He's one of the only playmakers they consistent playmakers they got, and he keeps showing up over and over. And again, they need guys who give a damn, and he's a guy who gives a damn every single week.
Every week.
He tries to do his thing. I think sometimes they could do things to put players in different positions to make more plays. I think we were talking about blitzing before the game. He's somebody who I think you could get off on some blitzes. They don't do that.
Yeah.
So, I think there's things that guys could do to do more, but he always finds a way. And I like the season he's having. I think he's had a good year.
There were a lot of injuries today. Some of them are really concerning. Chris Olave is in concussion protocol. Depending on the severity of that, they might not have him for Detroit. Rashid Shaheed also left the game with an injury. I believe that was a leg injury, Nick, the Rashid Shaheed injury.
Man, we tweeted it. It was lower body.
It was lower body for Rashid Shaheed. He left the game pretty early as well. Eric McCoy got injured. He came back in. Cameron Jordan got injured. Alante Taylor, Juwan Johnson, Jamal Williams all had kind of minor injuries. They came back in the game. But these are all things like you're not on a short week anymore. I mean, you're back into the flow of it off of the bye week. You hope coming off the bye week you don't have as many injuries as you did have in Minnesota, being able to heal up over the last week. But they're in a tough spot right now where it's kind of like strap up and go. Some of these guys, outside of Chris Olave, because the concussion protocol is so strict, if it is serious, they're not going to rush. They can't rush him back. But with some of these other injuries, like you're going to need to see Eric McCoy. Like having him out would just be detrimental for the Saints team. Cam Jordan, you need him in there as well. Has he had the best year? Not really, but who's going to fill in his shoes? Alante Taylor, you need him in there now that Marshawn Lattimore is now out for the next 4 games. Haven't seen a lot of production from Juwan Johnson and Jamal Williams, but you'd like to see them get going. So you hate to see this many injuries. What do you think heading into next week if you are missing a guy like Chris Olave? So that means 2 of your star wideouts are now out.
It's terrible. I mean, I think the 3 that concern me the most are Chris, Rashid, and Cam. I mean, I think those are the ones that I'm most worried about. If Olave's out next week, I think it's a damning situation. You got to get Callaway going really quick.
Really quickly.
And the way your offense is going, it's not good. Today was one of the first times all year where I felt like they did an outstanding job of featuring their playmaker, Chris Olave, like any playmaker, but they featured him in this game. He got going 114 yards before the halftime.
I know.
And then hospital ball. Carr throws a hospital ball that, kind of gets him injured on the sideline. Now he's out. I mean, it's just a tough situation, but those 2 guys, if they're out, I think it's dire. I don't know. I have no idea how you even compete if both Olave and Shaheed miss next week.
I want to bring up something that we talked about at the beginning of the game when we were watching, when you saw Juwan Johnson go up and make a big play. Rashid Shaheed caught a ball behind him, made a big play. Chris Olave had to go up and make a big play before the concussion. When the offense was driving, it wasn't the best balls that Derek Carr was putting up for his receivers to safely catch them. A lot of them were either too high or behind players. Like, that's something that also really, really needs to get addressed, and it's got to get fixed. You can't keep putting your receivers in these positions to get hurt.
Yeah. Like, even the one Olave kind of made something out of nothing on one. But, yeah, I mean, the yards after catch opportunities just kind of aren't there either, because it's just like you aren't leading guys. You see Jalen Hurts like lead guys, and you don't see a lot of that in this offense. One thing they did today that I liked, and it was driving me nuts forever, was like, and I wrote about it just a couple of weeks ago, is that there were no crossing routes in the offense. There were a lot of crossing routes today. Yeah. So that's one thing where you're kind of getting some easier
and that
yards.
was the one Eric McCoy got injured on. And we were like, no, the one we wanted to highlight of like the Lynn Bowden. It was the Lynn Bowden on the one play that was really finally something you saw something a little bit different than we saw Eric McCoy down. It was one after the other of bad, where we couldn't really highlight these things.
The injuries today were insane, yeah, for sure. But they had big issues.
Somebody needed to throw the towel at some point. It was so bad.
They got big issues. They got big issues right now. These injuries are not going to help. I mean, this is the worst game for it.
They've been relatively healthy this year, and that's something we have kind of credited with the guys in that room. There hasn't been a whole lot of soft tissue injuries.
Matt Ray and them have done a great job.
They've done a really great job. It's surprising to see this. It is the end of the season, though. We're getting to the end of the season, and a lot of teams right now are banged up, but it's something that you can't afford
at all
any at this point now to starters. All right, let's get to our Martin's question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of handpicked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than wine. Andrew Baker asks, already said it somewhere else, and I think it's a common question, but will this be the game that shows ownership? The house needs to be clean. The Steelers fired their OC after a divisional opponent loss. Maybe the Saints fire Allen and Carmichael. What are your thoughts on that?
They're going to do it in season. I just don't see it happening. I don't think we'll see it in season ever, as long as these people are in charge, unless it's a complete abject disaster. That's all in the eye of the beholder. But, yeah, I don't think we're going to see it. I think they're going to get the rest of the year to finish it out. I will say this. I feel like they would make a move after the season if they felt it was warranted. I don't think they're, afraid to do that. I think that is being evaluated. I think it's a very serious situation. And I think the people that are in charge of making those decisions are looking at it with an eye as if, if something needs to be done, they'll do it. I don't think that it's just this blind patience. I know, and I've painted it that way too before. I feel differently, I feel differently now. I feel differently. I feel like they would make a change after the season.
I felt like warranted. Tensions boiled over today, to be honest with you. I don't think they would make a head coaching change just based on what we've seen from the Saints organization. But because the offense has been so inconsistent and it's just been not fun to watch, it's very dull. It looks like they have shortened the playbook, and they have said that they've kind of simplified some things with Derek Carr being here. I think that's a huge indictment on a veteran quarterback coming in and not being able to handle a thick playbook. No, it's not Drew Brees, who essentially designed probably a quarter of the playbook with Sean Payton, but you expected this quarterback to come in here as a veteran and be able to pick things up and kind of be the lifeline and potentially a franchise quarterback. And it's missed. I think the coaching goes into that. And I think if they have another performance like this, let's say they go 0-5 again in the red zone against Detroit, penalties and turnovers are no longer your friend. That is not an excuse you can use. I think Mickey Loomis is going to eventually get to a point that if your offense cannot score a touchdown, what if they go to the next 3 games without scoring a touchdown? To me, that gets to the point to where your general manager, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. You've got a real decision to make if you can't produce numbers. And I'm just speaking as somebody who is just calling it as it is, not from a standpoint of I've known Mickey for 20 years. I haven't. You know Mickey better than I do. You know how he works with a lot of this stuff. But I'm just saying you would expect a general manager to really start to look at things. If you're not scoring touchdowns week after week, that's a real possibility. Detroit might blank New Orleans next weekend. And are you going to do anything about it? It can be in-house. Do you go to Ronald Curry? Do you go to John Gruden? Do you make a phone call and maybe start pitching to who your next OC that you would potentially want? It's just to the point now where why would you continue to let this just go on? Because then it's on you. It's not on the OC much longer. Then it's on the guy who is hiring and firing for that position, in my opinion.
My thing with John Gruden is why would he want to hitch his wagon to this? And he's a guy that needs a wagon to hitch himself to.
They probably missed that opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know why he'd want to do it at this point. Why would he want to come in and be the savior? I don't know. Maybe he would. It's just kind of hard to figure that out when you think about it. And he's somebody who needs a lifeline, and this is the kind of situation where you get one, but I just don't know why he'd want to do it. To your point, it's incredibly logical.
When you're the boss and you have this is for any job field, but the NFL even more so. There's a lot of money in this. There's a lot of money in the game. There, fans. You want fans to be able to keep their season tickets. It goes far beyond just the job, but in any job and any employer, if you're the boss and your employees underperforming that bad and just not doing their job well enough, you get to a point to where it's all right, we got to move on. The numbers don't look good. Let's make a decision for the next quarter,
Yeah, so there's what I think will happen, and it's I don't think that they'd make a change in season.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. That's our motto. That's our motto this year.
What should happen before the season, this point last year, I was on the show saying it would be malpractice if they brought him back. You can't bring him back. You can't bring him back. They brought him back. He's here. He's still going. We're at a point now which should happen. They probably are at a point where I would try somebody else out. If you lose another game or two and you're out of it, why wouldn't you find out if you have another guy on your staff that can do it better? At that point, what is there to lose?
At that point?
Right, exactly. So you get to a point where it should happen. But what I think will happen, I think they're riding it out with the staff, and then they're going to evaluate it after the year because that's just not how they do things. But, man,
Well, and let me
Sometimes
put it this way.
Should.
Derek Carr, 0 touchdowns, Minnesota and Atlanta.
Terrible. It's getting worse. The DA said
You've
after the game.
You had 3 quarters where you're starting quarterback that you're paying how much money this year?
Yeah,
How much money?
A lot of money.
Yeah, and
Too much
next
money.
year it's
More than he's
guaranteed
worth.
over $30 million. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
No touchdowns.
2 games in a row. I was shocked when DA said that he thought the red zone offense was going in the right direction. I'm like, based on what?
Okay,
like
let's be real. Let's be real.
Let's
be real. There was something that was talked about this week in practice that Derek Carr said, I feel like the offense has been really going the last 5 games. We were like,
Minnesota? Like, that was the worst game ever.
What game?
Are you talking about when Jameis was in there? Like,
yeah,
come on,
like
that was crazy.
Indianapolis, but the Bears, you had one good half, and it was an okay half. It wasn't like this magical, you put together like a game like the Eagles would. Like, I don't know what better word for it, like delusion, what the last 5 games have just been so good to them on offense. Like, it has not been.
It's been crazy.
No.
I just don't
I
understand.
couldn't believe
That's
that
what
they
I was
said that
saying.
this
Like
week.
there was no urgency, like post game, and it's like you've had the 2 worst offensive performance.
Yeah.
And again, you got yards today. Great, you got yards. Amazing job getting yards. It's like walking to the bank and losing your money before you hit the deposit. Like
I know.
you don't have any money in the account. You had money, now you don't. Like you got to put it in the bank. They don't put anything in the bank, so I don't give a damn about 300 passing yards. Like it's bad. Like you did not score. You get into the red zone, you throw a pick. Like. Yeah, Ryan Ramczyk had 2 holdings. You should be able to count on Ramczyk, but like, all right, whatever. I don't want to hear an excuse at this point because you haven't done enough to earn the right to have excuses.
They've used every excuse in the book up to this point. Some have been warranted. There were penalties and turnovers that stalled drives today, that stalled them in the red zone. 100%. 100%. You still went 0-5 in the red zone.
Yeah.
You still went 0-5.
You got to score 1.
You have to, if you want to win in this league, you got to score touchdowns. Field goals are not going to do it. We said it in our pregame show because the team over there is not going to miss a field goal. They have an incredible kicker who we saw today was fantastic. Blake Grupe had a good day, though. He went 5 of 6. You can't ask more than that, right?
He made his first 5 kicks.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're putting your whole entire franchise on the back of a rookie kicker.
That's not fair. Alvin said it perfectly in the locker room. He's like, look, I love my guy. I love Blake Grupe. He's my locker mate. You can't win.
Yeah.
You just can't win at this point, and you're definitely not going to beat the Lions by kicking field goals.
No, you're not.
Do you want an early prediction for Lions this week?
Oh, Lions are going to win.
I think we said that on our last show, too. We think if we're looking at the next 6 games, we definitely don't think they're going to beat the Lions. But is it crazy to think that maybe Ronald Curry does call the plays next week?
Yeah, I don't see it happening. Just, again, based on what I know about this team, I would be incredibly...
Do you think we would know? If they made a change, do you think they would make it public?
I don't know. I mean, we'd be able to tell watching.
Right, we'd be able to tell during the game. But
yeah, but I would hope they would because, I mean, if you give Ronald Curry that opportunity, I mean, it has significance beyond just the New Orleans Saints.
Absolutely.
And I think people should know, what's going on, and he should get credit for his successes. So if they made that change, I would hope that, just out of the recognition of what it means, there isn't enough diversity in coaching, and that would be a guy getting an opportunity to prove himself in a big role. I would hope that they would make that a very public thing, but, who knows?
Yeah. All right. Well, that will do it for us here live in Atlanta. We will be joining you back in New Orleans live on Wednesday, and then, of course, on Friday for another matchup show between Lions and Saints. We will be breaking it all down. Thank you guys so much for joining us live late this afternoon after the Saints now go 5-6 after the bye week. They now fall to 2nd in the NFC South. The Falcons leapfrog them and are in first place. If you guys like what we've been doing, go ahead and do us a favor. This is a live, public, free show on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe on our channel, and we'll see you guys next time.